Well, here's another warning. This is from Queensland LNP Senator Matt Canavan on this show way back in November, talking about the deadly consequences of energy poverty in Europe, which the Queensland government at the time was using as a prototype for its own policies. Let's have a listen.
Well, Fred, it's worked so well in Europe, why wouldn't we try it here ourselves? This is gobsmackingly incompetent at a time where we can all see that European people will be freezing this winter. Some people will die because of the energy incompetence we've seen right across Europe. They've shut down their coal-fired power stations. Some countries like Germany, as you said, have also decommissioned their nuclear power plants. They've become reliant on weather-dependent, renewable energy, exactly what Anastasia Palaszczuk wants to do, and people are dying because of it. As I say, it's gobsmackingly incompetent because we can see all that. Maybe you could give the German Greens Party a leave pass because they were the first to try it and didn't see any other real-world examples. Well, there's no such excuse for the Queensland Labor Party because the experiment with renewable energy has been tried and has failed and failed spectacularly. We have to turn around from this approach.
So we've seen the writing on the wall in Europe. You and I have just discussed the consequences as far as price of energy and blackouts go. But there's another measure, isn't there, Scott? It's the quality of life and the fact that people might very soon freeze to death in the dark in Australia.
Isn't it terrible, Fred, that we're reaching the situation where ordinary Australians are faced with the decision whether it's heat or eat? You know, household bills are under tremendous pressure at the moment from all sorts of inflation, much of which caused by government. If you've got a mortgage, of course, you know, you're in dreadful strife with inflationary government pushing up interest rates and faced with that decision to heat or eat. And that is not where Australia should be. There's no reason why in a resource-rich country like we are that consumers should face that choice.
Well, let's talk about one of those resources, nuclear, which is obviously a viable alternative. We saw the Federal Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, warning us that small modular nuclear power plants cost $5 billion to build. Here's a reminder of that message.
Nuclear power is very expensive. Wherever nuclear power plants are being built around the world, they are taking longer and costing much more than budgeted for. Even small modular reactors would cost a massive $5 billion each to build. And proponents say we need as many as 80 small reactors spread across the country. That's a whopping $400 billion in cost.
What Bowen wasn't saying is that these modular reactors produce about 1.5 gigawatts of energy, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, for more than 60 years. Now, Scott, do you think it was irresponsible for the Energy Minister to say that this is a bad thing?
I think it was very irresponsible, and I think it's a bit rich also for anyone who's just locked into this dream that somehow wind and solar can deliver low emissions energy, which may or may not actually be true. But the lengths that they're willing to go to and to then turn around and say it's going to cost too much is a bit rich. We've already seen, you know, when they're throwing around figures of like $300 billion to finance this supposed energy transition towards renewable, and then Chris Bowen turns around and says, oh my goodness, it's going to cost $5 billion for a power station, which, as you say, it's technology that we know about, it's technology that we know could be delivered, and when you switch it on, it can operate for a very long time at a very high capacity factor. And it doesn't matter if the sun goes behind a cloud, and it doesn't matter if the wind stops blowing. That's why he was forced, no doubt, to take that video down. It was a terrible video which did a disservice to everybody.